there, and welcome back to SOS Stories of Survivors. I'm your host, Serina Dansker, and we're going to do something different today. I've never told my story on SOS Stories of Survivors, and I thought it was time that you guys really hear from how this was born and what it really means to me. And here today, we are flipping the script, and my good friend Michelle Giorno is going to be asking the questions, and I'm going to be giving her the answers. So I hope you enjoyed the show.
I'm so excited. I'm honored, Serena. Thank you so much. I am so excited to have you, the host, as a guest today. Today's going to be fun,
It
as
is.
we've said so many times. Like we could just this is from our mouth to God's ears. This is happening
I can't believe it.
for
I know.
such a beautiful purpose, and
Mm.
I am truly honored to be the host today
Oh, thank you.
to just share in this
Our journey.
very um, intimate journey.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that today or this month, September, is Suicide Awareness Month. Um, I wouldn't say necessarily that it's special. It is special because it does need awareness, and I have had many people who have been impacted by suicide,
Yeah.
but nothing impacted me the way that your loss impacted me. It rocked our
I
worlds.
really do.
Everyone who knows the Dansker family and you and Brad and the trips.
I know.
So I'm think it's so important for you to share this, and I'm looking forward to it.
Oh my gosh, it's been a journey, and who I was before, and then
Yeah.
who I am after. It's remarkable the difference, and thank you for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you, Serena. I just want to say that Stories of Survivors is making a difference. Daily messages from listeners whose lives have been impacted, changed. People who have heard the show, they want to come on and they want to share their story.
Yeah,
And the thing is, we all have a thread. There's a
yes,
thread that connects all of us.
absolutely.
And as they say, like 6 degrees of separation.
We all have our burdens, and sharing them lets others know that you're not alone. We all have things going on in our lives. I
Yeah.
do, Michelle does. And if we share them and we talk about them and we take away the stigma surrounding it, we can make a difference. And maybe, just maybe, suicide would be a thing of the past. I mean, putting it out there to the universe.
I agree. So I'm so excited to dig in. Um, Serena, you're usually the one who's asking all the questions, but today um, we get to hear your journey. For those who don't know your full story, can you start by just telling us who you were um, before all of this began?
Sure, yeah. I grew up in Yonkers, New York, single mom. Um, I worked my way through college. I worked 3 jobs, put myself through school. We didn't have a lot of money, but we had a lot of love. And throughout my time at school, at college, I lived at home. And when I finally graduated, I wanted to get out on my own and, break away and become independent. So I moved to California. And I got a job at Merrill Lynch, and I worked under the top producer in the Beverly Hills office, and I got my licenses, and I learned the business. And while I was out there, I had come home for the holidays during Christmas one year, and to visit everyone. And my friend's older brother, Brad, took me aside and he goes, I've always had a crush on you. We should start dating. Now, mind you, he lived in New Jersey and I lived in California. And I'm like, how in the world is this going to work? And
Right.
he said, don't worry, because I got this great job. I've traveled all the time. I have miles, so I could fly out there. I could fly you in. It'll work. And I said, okay. And so we started dating. We did the long distance thing. And within 6 months, we got engaged. And then I had a
Love it.
little bit of a commitment with work out there. And then so once that ended, I moved back and we got married and we're going to be celebrating 31 years this year.
Woo! All right. Let's hear it for Brad. Full court press.
True.
Love it.
So
Love
yeah, so that was my background. We got married and we had a great life. We were both working, double income, no kids. While some of our friends were blessed and were able to have children, we were not so lucky. I went to all these doctors and started infertility as I got older. They're like, oh, have sex every day, you'll get pregnant. No, it didn't work. While my sister in law would look at her husband and she would get pregnant.
it.
So we went through quite a tough time because I felt like I was almost a failure,
Yeah.
because the one thing you want is to build a family and have kids. And
Right.
although we were successful in our careers, we loved each other, we were the best of friends, there was one thing missing, and so Brad was great. He's like, look, he goes, we will try, we will do whatever it takes. He goes, but if it doesn't happen, then it's not meant to. And it's just you and me against the world. And just to
Mm,
have that support was
right.
really what I needed. And we tried for 10 years. And finally, we did in vitro fertilization. And with that, I was lucky. My company covered it. I had switched firms from Merrill Lynch to another, like an insurance company, Prudential Securities, and they covered all the infertility
Wow.
treatments, which was
That's
faithful.
amazing.
Yeah. And then they were getting bought out by a bank, Wachovia Securities.
Mm.
And they said, oh no, come January, no more fertility benefits. And I'm like, oh my
Ah,
gosh. So we had just done the cycle, they call it, and it didn't take. So I had frozen embryos, and we decided, you know what, it was November. We said, well, even though they like to usually skip a month, so they would normally skip December and do it in January, we said, you know what? Let's just do it in December and use the frozen embryos. So they put in 3 frozen embryos, and I
wow.
had triplets.
I love it.
And so yeah, so from the get go, triplets. It was crazy. 3 little babies. And I never babysat as a kid. I had
Well,
no
then that
idea.
really was a wake up call.
Careful
I'm
what you
sure
wish
you had
for.
a lot of help.
Well, eventually, yeah, I did. I got help, and people taught me to put them on schedules. And
Right.
luckily, they were healthy and they were happy and beautiful children. And they filled my world. They really did. But what I realized is, shortly after having them, we went through the financial crisis.
Right.
And so I realized I could not do both. I could not take care of my triplets and work in,
Right.
in my
No
career
way.
and do both well. So once something had to go, and since I worked so hard to have I mean, I worked hard in my career, but this was the next chapter. So taking care of the kids became my priority.
Yeah.
And so that's who I was. I was a mom to triplets. I was a wife. I had my mom who was getting older, who I would always see and take care of. I had a full social calendar.
Mhm.
I volunteered at the school. I still dibbled and dabbled in the markets, just managing my own portfolio and some friends and family.
Right.
But it was good. We were happy.
I love that.
We were
You're a
really.
great mom.
Oh, thank
I've
you.
love you're such a good example to me and to so many. Juggling the schedule for 3 kids that are the same age is, in my eyes, impossible. So
You
you
just,
you did an
ignorance
amazing
is bliss.
job.
You don't know any better.
True,
You just do.
true, true. So, I just wanted to touch on who was Serena before this advocacy work started? Like,
Right.
aside from being a mom and the triplets, like, who were you?
Yeah. Who was I? I basically identified as a career girl.
Mm,
Um, I I always cared, deeply as an empath for my friends and my family. Family was so always so important to me.
right.
So I would always have in my house a house full of friends and family because my
Yeah,
friends are like my family,
I know, I know.
and I would always throw parties and entertain and just any excuse to get together with the people I love because I just feel like I don't get to see them enough because life is busy.
Right.
And so I taught my kids that, you always want to put your family and your friends first and really, surround yourself with good people, people that love you,
Right.
and build you up.
That's so funny. I've said the same thing. It's so important who you surround yourself with,
Hmm.
and that goes for anyone who's listening, and you go through trauma.
Yeah.
You want to have those people who lift you up and build you up, and
Always.
encourage you.
Always.
So,
And it was tough. I mean, the teenage years of raising the kids and going through COVID and
mm,
what that entailed and not being able to see my mom or bring her around because she was elderly. I was afraid that somehow one of us would contract COVID and then give it to her. And,
right,
it was really early on before there were vaccines or the vaccines were there, but there were no like instant medication and
right.
pills to take care of things. So I still try to do a few outdoor barbecues and outdoor stuff with the family. So,
What did happiness look like for you? I know it was the friends and the family and the barbecues,
yeah.
but there's one thing that I know that I think is so special. And is so much part of your story, and I'm gonna tell you what it
Yeah,
is.
please.
Um, because it is how much you prioritize your relationship with Brad
Oh, my marriage.
and your
Yeah.
date nights.
Oh, yes.
And that was a priority. I
Always.
mean, I met
Yes.
you like after the triplets, so
They were 6 years old.
but you
Yeah.
still prioritized
Oh,
each
yeah.
other.
Oh,
I
always.
mean,
Friday night was date night. So Friday night, every
mhm,
Friday night, we had a babysitter. I
mhm.
would con whoever I can to be my babysitter. But usually they were these sweet young women, and they were just great.
Sometimes me.
Yeah.
New Year's Eve.
Yes, that was my cousin's wedding. That was a really good one. But yeah, we always because I knew that once the kids grew up and they went on their own, who was going to be left but
Right,
us? And if we didn't keep that connection going, you can kind of grow apart. I've seen it
right.
happen in a lot of people, they
Oh
grow
yeah,
apart.
I know.
So for Brad and I, we've always been friends. We've always talked, we share so many of the same interests. So we would go out on Friday nights or we take weekends away or take
Mhm.
one night away. Inevitably, all we talk about are the kids.
Right. True. Yes.
But, with that said, it was a great way for us to connect and to remember why we still love each other and why we're connected and why we're on this journey together. And, you laugh and you
Yeah.
support each other. And if you're having a problem with work, I could understand what he was doing because I was in that
In that
field,
where yeah.
and then, when I would talk about the kids and things he wasn't in the room for when they would tell me these stories, we would problem solve together. So it was super cool and really important. Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
You're a great example as a partner
Mm.
too. So, I do want to segue now to talk about Scott's story.
Okay.
Scotty, I would like I want you to tell us about Scott.
All right. So Scott. So I had triplets, of course, and Scott was the firstborn. He did everything first. He walked first. He talked first. He ran first. He climbed trees first. That's who Scott was. But he wasn't just a pioneer and things. He would be. There was a crowd of kids in a room, and someone asked for a volunteer. His arm would go up first,
Mm,
and
mhm.
it didn't matter what it was.
Yeah,
He wasn't afraid to take risks and to be out there and
he's
um,
fearless.
he was,
Yeah.
but something flipped on him when he went off to middle school. It was, a little bit trying to figure out where he belonged, his friend groups and stuff like that. And he found his friend groups and he became a little bit of a comedian in school.
Mhm.
And when he got to high school, something again shifted. And, he wanted to play football and he wanted to play lacrosse. Those were the big popular sports, but that's not where he shined. He shined more in track or in cross country and in wrestling,
Right.
but those were not the cool sports. And so he really struggled with finding his friend groups. And I
Right.
remember him coming to me and saying, Mom, he's like, I'm not the jock. I'm not the smartest kids on, I'm not in with the nerds. He's like,
Mm.
I have not found my friend group. I'm not the most popular kid. He goes, I feel like all that's left for me to hang out with are the kids that do drugs. And he says,
Mm.
that's not who I want to be. But he felt like he was, really struggling.
Right.
And so, he would make friends so easily. My God, he would go to
Oh,
the
I know.
mall and
Mhm.
just, had these, and after he passed, I found his phone and he used to have a list of pickup lines.
Of course he did.
And he would say to a girl, do you like my shirt? You think it's boyfriend material? Like, did those actually
Did they
work?
work?
But he would do things like that. He was just carefree and
Mhm.
crazy. And I guess, it was before COVID. He had done ninth grade at school, and the summer was upon us, and he took Brad and I, and he sat us down. He was always into the Boy Scouts and stuff, and he had done a trip to West Point, and he just loved it. And he said, I think what I want to do is I want to go into the Naval Academy after high school. And we're like, okay, he's like, but he goes, in order to get there, he goes, I really think I should go into like a feeder school, like a military school
Right.
to get into it. And I'm like, you want to leave this plush house we have,
Mm.
with a great school system that you're in here in Connecticut, to go to a military school where there's like rules and uniforms. And
Mhm.
he was my fashionista too. He loved to dress and,
Right.
always,
Yeah.
picking up the latest trends. He liked to go thrifting.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, that's what I really want. So we did a lot of soul searching and we did a lot of research. And we had found a school down in Florida called Admiral Farragut
Mm.
Academy. It was in St. Petersburg, and it was actually more like a country club than a military school.
Mm.
And they had kids that weren't going the military route, so it was just a high school. But if you wanted to, they had the uniforms and they had all of that intact. So you had to dress in your uniforms, and you learned a lot of stuff the way the military is. And it
Right.
was a military feeder school into like West Point or the Naval Academy or the Coast Guard. Lots of kids would get in there.
I love that. Before like we go on, I have one just letting the audience know I was Scott and Jake's den later.
Yes,
And that
the
is how
Boy
I
Scouts.
met Serena. They were in my den. Oh, they were just so cute. And we worked hard to earn as many patches as possible. It was fun. We had fun. And I mean, it was the Cub Scouts thing.
Yes, yes.
But I want to just segue into like one question that I love because I wanted to share this with you. But one of my favorite memories of Scott was so the trips would go to sleepaway camp.
Yes.
Now, I only have Curran, one boy, and I guess he's a mama's boy. Sorry, Curran, if you're listening. But I told him the trips are going. And I mean, I have many like great memories of Scott, but one of the best was that how supportive him and Jake both were. And we made sure Curran was in the cabin with him that first 2 weeks. And
Uh,
he was such a support and a friend and very loving and kind and compassionate. And he made sure that Curran like got integrated into the group. And I mean, I had to make sure Curran stuck it out the 2 weeks. But
it was
that is the kind of person that Scott was.
he loved camp. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, Camp Hazen, it was magical. 2 weeks, no phones, no technology. You
Mhm.
couldn't even bring a radio with you. No,
Yeah.
they had guitars and stuff like that they could do. They had, people come in and play music for them. But those 2 weeks, you were just a kid.
Yeah.
And
Where our reality
yeah,
wasn't, it was, there were too connected, these
yeah,
kids, unfortunately, even at that young age.
yeah.
But just on that, what's one of your favorite memories you want to share of Scotty?
Oh
I
my
know it's
gosh.
hard.
Oh, well, there's so many memories, but one of the the Scotty stories I can share is he was always like scheming to do things. And I'll never forget, it was, oh, probably during COVID, maybe. And I was, letting the dog out, coming in the house, and I noticed his bike was out by the side door and it wasn't in the garage where we always keep, the bikes.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh, that's interesting. So I, locked the doors, turned on the alarm or whatever, and went to bed. And it was probably like 11 o'clock at night or whatever. And so the next morning, I let the dog out at 6 a.m. and the bike is still there, but now there's like mulch all over the tires. And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird, I
Right.
wonder what happened there, did some, it just was strange. And so I decided to we have cameras, the ring cameras
Uh,
outside.
oh,
So I decided to do a little recon.
yeah. Of course you did.
And all of a sudden on the camera, I see coming out of the shadows is Scott. And he's like
Mm.
tiptoeing like a cat burglar. And I see him jump on his bike and take off through the mulch, and then he's gone.
Oh,
And so, and this was at 2 a.m.
my
So I'm
gosh.
thinking to myself, okay, one, how did he bypass the alarm?
Right.
Two, where in the world is he going at 2 a.m.? So I decide, okay, it's 7 a.m. The kid's, in his room.
Mm.
I open up the door
Oh,
and I'm like,
yeah.
oh, we need to talk, buddy. And he's like, what? So I just, I'm like, did you go out last night? What? I'm like, all right, let's call it what it is. I think you're busted. He's like, how did you find out? And
Right.
I'm like, okay, I'll answer my question, your questions after you answer my questions. So
Absolutely.
he turned out he was going to see a girl.
Yeah.
And the way he says, he's like, yes, I went to see. I said at 2 a.m. He's like, yeah, her mother was fine with it. And I'm thinking to myself, sure. She snuck out, you snuck out. And I'm like,
Right.
and what did you do at 2 a.m.? There's, you're 14, 15 years old. There's.
Ah.
And he's like, oh, we just hung out at the park and sat on the swing and talked. And
Aw.
I'm like, that's great. Like, oh my gosh. So yeah, that was one of my favorite stories. And
I'm
there were lots like that.
I know, I know. I'm so happy that we like just shared like lots of laughs and happy memories
Yeah.
because now I have to ask, can you share with us what happened on the day your life changed
Oh, God.
forever?
Yeah. Okay. So that day was April 22nd. He was away at Admiral Farragut. He something like, you feel things. So something told me I gotta text him and see how he's doing.
Hmm.
He's working on his Eagle project, trying to get permission and all of that.
Cool. Yeah.
So I wanted to see what was going on. So I call him and we FaceTime, and he's like outside and he's talking a mile a minute, all excited. I got approvals. I just put up my GoFundMe. I'm going to build this fire pit that all the cadets are going to be able to go around and talk and share some of the stuff that's going on in their lives and make s'mores. And he was just so thrilled because he got the Boy Scouts and the school to agree to allow him to build it. And is
That's
that's a big
amazing.
feat,
Yeah.
to do. And he's finally going to get this eagle project done to get the coveted eagle, which would help him eventually getting to the school of his choice, whether
Right.
it's the Naval Academy or West Point or the Coast Guard.
Right.
That was where he ultimately wanted to be.
Right.
And so I was so happy for him, and he was so over the moon with joy.
Yeah.
And it was great. And he was like making fun of me and my laugh as I was laughing. He was just like, I'm like, all right. So I let him go and, made dinner for the other two, shared the story with Brad and the kids and how excited he was. And we all said, we're going to donate to his GoFundMe, and,
Yeah.
we'll share it. And so we go off to bed that night, but put the dog down, out, let the dog go out, lock up. And all of a sudden it was, I don't know, 1:07 in the morning. And
Mm.
I hear, and I'm like, oh my God, what is that? And I'm wondering if one of the kids got locked out of the house. Were they sneaking out? What was it? The dog starts barking. I look out the window and I see a police car outside. And I'm
Mm.
like, that's strange. I'm like, well, the normal culprit that would get in trouble, Scott, he's not here,
Not
so it's
here.
not him,
Right.
and I can't imagine that Lexi or Jake got, into some serious trouble. But, I ran downstairs and I opened up the door, and the policeman, both of us looked and they said, "Ma'am, is your husband home?" And I'm like, "Yes." So now I'm thinking, was it an intruder? Was there someone coming?
Right.
What's going on? So Brad comes downstairs and the police asked if they can come in. And we're like, "Okay, what's going on?" And they said, "We're sorry to tell you, but your son Scott has died." I'm like, "What? What do you know? Scott's not here. Scott's in
Right.
Florida. This can't even be true." And they're like, "Well, ma'am, the St. Pete police called us and they said that he died by suicide." And right then, the air just got knocked out of me. I felt like the policeman took his fist and just might as well
Right.
punched me in my
Right.
solar plex, because I couldn't catch my breath. The
I
room started
cannot even
spinning.
imagine.
I was I was devastated. I
Yeah.
held on to a nearby chair and I started to hyperventilate, and whatever they were saying,
Right.
words of I couldn't even hear. It was like,
Right.
wah, wah, and
Right.
all I kept thinking is, this is a mistake. This
This
is
isn't
not.
real.
He was happy. What in the world,
Right.
And they hand me this card to call, and the last thing in the world I wanted to do was to call the police department down there, but they wouldn't leave until I called. I mean, I
Oh,
just wanted to collapse into Brad's arms and just,
right.
and just hold on. And so I called, and the police person on charge said they'd have to call me back, and it was like a whole thing.
Oh gosh.
And finally, the policeman left, and they confirmed what they had said, that they Scott had died by suicide. They're doing an investigation. But if I have any questions, here's the investigator in charge. And my husband and I just looked at it. We're like, we're just at a loss.
Right.
You don't know anything. You don't know what's going on. You really have no sense of how this unfolded or what happened. Um, I reached out to the um, head of the school down there, who didn't call me back because I guess they were so worried about protecting themselves.
Right.
They said that they've been informed to have me talk to the police, and to try and get as
That's
much information
like that's the
as
worst
possible.
thing as from your like be I can't imagine, but being in your
Mm.
shoes and like you're just like you want to shake someone and talk to
And
me,
it's
talk to
we're
me.
in Connecticut, they're in
Right.
Florida,
Like I trusted my kid with you. I need
right?
you.
To
Like
tell me what's going on. So
oof.
one of the heads there reached out to me and said that some of the boys had gotten in trouble. They were smoking in a room, and their phones were confiscated, and they were going to face the Commodore in the morning. And is what had happened. And in the mornings, because this was, of course, 2 o'clock in the morning that I'm
Right.
talking to this person, and I'll
Yeah.
protect. Said in the morning we'll give you the full report of what we have, but I know the police are investigating, and until their investigation is done. So it's about 2:30 in the morning, and Brad and I decide we have to wake up Lexi and Jake, and let them know
Mhm.
what happened. And it was the craziest thing. So Jake looks at us and he's like, "I felt Scott when he passed." He goes, "I woke up. It was like 12:30 or 1 o'clock." He goes, "And I felt him." And he goes, I didn't realize. I thought it was just dreaming, but that it was him. And Lexi, oh, my poor precious girl. She was
Mhm.
just, oh my gosh, she lost her brother. She's just like, "Are we still triplets?" Because
Yeah.
that's how, they
Yes, you're still
identified.
triplets.
And, she's
Mm,
like, "Am I a
poor.
twin now?" And I'm
Yeah.
just like,
I just
"No, no, you're not."
yeah.
And they couldn't understand. I mean, this is 16 years old,
Right. Right.
almost 17 years old. This shouldn't be their biggest worry. Should be passing their driving test,
Right.
not that their brother just died. And then
Right.
it's junior year. So
Yeah.
they're in the midst of all the SATs and AP classes and everything else going on. And
Right.
here they can't even focus. They can't even comprehend what's going on. I couldn't comprehend. I just
Like that's incredible coming off of everything that these kids experienced through COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And then for Lexi and Jake to have to figure life out
Oh
and
my
in
gosh.
the midst of that grief.
Well, and it's crazy, Michelle, because I mean, you and I both know trauma, and
Mhm.
we felt trauma.
Yeah.
But this kind of grief, I mean, we felt grief too. I mean, we've all lost people in our lives, but there is nothing like
No.
losing a child.
Mm-mm.
There is nothing that
No.
can replicate that feeling of just having your soul ripped out of you, and
Right.
just you feel like you've just been shattered
Yeah.
and you're in a thousand pieces. And you know, all I could think about was not me,
Mhm.
but was my husband and my
And your
kids,
kids. Yeah.
because I don't have time to pity myself and throw a pity party.
Right.
I had two kids that I had to show that
How
how
to continue.
as broken as you are,
Mhm.
you need to pick up the pieces as best you can and glue them back on in any which way they'll fall,
Right.
and
Yeah.
just put one foot in front of the other.
Right.
And we'll take one moment, 1 hour, one
Right.
day at a time, and not to get too far ahead of things, because there's so many questions we
Right.
had. There's so many, things going through. It's like, how can this possibly happen? And then I'm mad at Scott for doing it.
Right.
I'm mad at God for allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
I'm mad at the school for not protecting him enough.
Right.
I'm mad at me for letting him go to a
Right.
school. Maybe he wasn't ready. And so there's all of these emotions that are floating through your body and your
Mhm.
mind and your soul. And then you have the community at large. I mean, we a week passed and we had his funeral. And this is still during COVID. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
this is 2021.
Right.
Okay. So you're still in the thick of
Still
things.
real in the thick. I mean,
And so, then the question is, well, can you have a funeral during COVID? And I'm like, I'm having a
oh
funeral
yeah,
during COVID. Whatever it's
happening.
going to take, we're going to do it, because
Right.
this is too important. We need
Right.
closure,
Yes. Yeah.
and the day of the funeral, or the day of the wake, I should say, it was pouring rain out there. And I just remember holding on to Brad's hand for dear life as we
Mm.
stood there and greeted every person. There were over 800 people
Yeah.
that came to the wake
Yeah.
in the pouring rain,
Right.
that wrapped
That
around.
just stood and waited to
And
give their condolences, and because that's the thing. I'm not sure Scotty knew how loved he was. And that's the thing with our young kids
you know,
when they are in when they're in a struggle
yeah.
and they can't see. They only see within their confines of the walls that they have around them.
Oh my gosh.
But he was so loved.
He was
You
loved,
all were so loved.
but
Are so loved.
it's the kid always wanted to be popular, and he never realized he was
He
popular.
was popular. He
I
was.
don't know what definition of popular is. I mean,
Right.
Lexi used to get so mad because she was on the volleyball team, and they had a Scott Dansker fan club. She'd be like, "Why don't they have a Lexi Dansker fan club? Why is it about Scott?" She would
He's
get so
still on
annoyed.
the stage.
Always. Yeah, he
Oh,
always stole the spotlight.
yeah.
And so here we are. We're greeting all these people, and a lot of them are young people. And because I know how impressionable these kids are,
Mhm.
I should have been numb. But the only thing I could feel was, I need to say something to these kids that are
Mhm.
coming in
Right.
to pay their respects, to explain to them that this is not a decision I would make. That Scott made a decision. He made a permanent decision for a temporary problem.
Right.
Whatever was going on in his life, at school, whatever, he didn't see beyond it, because this is temporary. And if he would have just picked up the phone or Granted, his phone was confiscated, but he knew, he was very savvy. He could break out of the house at 2 a.m.
Right.
He could go on the computer and make a phone call using, his
Right.
little whatever things they use, their hotspots, or,
Right.
they jailbreak the computers. He could have done it, but he chose not to. He did write us all letters, though, and he explained what happened, and he explained that he felt he ruined his life, and he was just in the state of mind that he said, I can't do it anymore." And he gave up. He
I
gave up on
just,
himself.
Serena, like you sharing that is so, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And, but I really want everyone to hear and know that there's nothing, nothing in this world that is ever life ending,
Yeah.
or that it will end your life, or that is that bad. And I know
Yeah.
that that's your message.
Oh my gosh. You are not alone. Whatever is going on in your life, it may seem like you're never going to get out of it, but I'm going to tell you something. Reach out to me, reach out to
Yes.
somebody, reach out to the community, because we will help you. We'll carry you. If you can't walk, we'll carry you. If you're having struggles trying to do things, go to the local church, the local community center. There is help out there. Dial 988. Always, there's someone there that can help you find a solution. And just know that every hard point in your life that you've gotten through it
Right.
because you're here.
Right.
And sometimes it's so hard to realize that when you're going through the storm and you're in the midst of it. But just by putting one foot in front of the other and just making your way through, eventually you will get through that storm and you
Right.
will get to the rainbow on the other side. That I promise you, I do.
I totally agree, and I know that you would say this. Some of the most beautiful things in life come out of your pain,
Yeah.
and but you got to fight through
Mhm.
that and just press on. So
Oh my gosh.
um,
Yeah,
I
me
don't
too.
I don't want to move on too fast, but I do think it's important to talk about, in especially in that immediate days, but even as you know, grief is not linear. And I know that you've taught your kids, Lexi and Jake know that it is an up and down. There are peaks, there are valleys.
Yeah.
You're gonna, I know that they've had some good moments, you know, and sometimes I know that they could have guilt around those good moments, or, they're struggling, but it's like you just have to keep going.
You
But
too.
one of the things I would love for you to talk about is how did grief, I think most important is what did it look like for you?
Yeah.
And if you want to share, it's
Sure.
for your family.
Yeah, so for everybody, grief is different.
Yeah.
No two people are alike. I mean, for me, I didn't go the traditional therapist route. I sought out my priest.
Hmm.
I sought out mediums. I sought out healers. And it may sound really, really strange, but I needed to know that Scott was okay.
Yeah.
Now I know he's not here anymore, so he's obviously not okay. But I needed to know that wherever he was, that he was all right.
Right. Mm.
And so I sought the help of a healer, and that was recommended to me. People were so kind. They'd left me books and they'd leave me all sorts of things during this time. And I read through them, and I learned as much as I can, and finding out about the other side. And so I went to this healer who asked me, "What can I do for you?" I said, just fix me. I'm
Yeah.
broken. I'm
Yeah.
totally broken.
Right.
And I had no idea, but she's like, "Do you want to ask Scott any questions?" And I'm like, "Ask Scott questions? What?"
Right.
I have a lot. At first, I want to knock him out because he put us all in this position. But after that, yes, I have a lot of questions for him.
Right.
So she said, "Well, I'll try and connect with him."
Mm.
And so she did, and it was just amazing what she was able to give me the message that he was sorry. He was
Mhm.
sorry for what happened, and he never meant to hurt me or the
Right.
family the way he did. and his decision, he made was, you know, a little bit spontaneous, but that he was okay. He's not in pain anymore, and he wasn't suffering, and that he was um, in a better place, and he understands now,
Mhm.
understands what it's all about. And I asked him, well, what's it like there? And he said, it's beautiful. It's light. There's so much light and energy and love. And, he was
Isn't
just,
that like the most beautiful message that, I mean, anyone could want to
oh,
receive?
it was
And
amazing.
that he's at peace.
And so for me, that helps. But it was like a little bit, but I needed more. So
Right.
I reached out. There's a medium who wrote the book, oh, Conversations with Mary.
Right.
And this is Anna Raimondi. And she um, is very well renowned as
Mhm.
a medium and healer and clairvoyant.
Mhm.
And I so I went on her website, and it was 2 years before I could get an appointment.
She's
Like,
very sought after.
2 years, huh? So a friend of mine told me that, sometimes if you message directly, they can set up special
Mhm.
appointments. And so I did, and I was able to get an appointment in like 2 months, within 2 months.
Wow.
And so that was wonderful. And she really gave me a lot more clarity and put me at ease knowing he's with our family,
Mhm.
and that had already passed my husband's parents. He was
Right.
with them, my mother's mother and
Right.
grandmother, and they they were all together and surrounded by love. And it's really interesting because going through this journey, I read this book called Signs, and I didn't, I never realized I wasn't open, I guess, until now. But there are signs every
Mhm.
day, everywhere,
Yeah.
where people from the other side send you messages. They Scott sends me hearts. I see hearts everywhere. And it's funny because the healer was working on me one Mother's Day, and she's like, oh, Scott's sending you a message. And I'm like, a message? She's like, look outside the window. So I look outside the window, and we have this like little garden, and there's this stairs, and clear as day, there was this one leaf, one green leaf that was shaped like a heart. And it was there. And I'm just like, okay, you're joking, right? This is my message. And he was sending me love on Mother's Day. And he sends me so many messages. I see dragonflies all the time.
Mm.
He sends me hearts all the time. I take a picture of the sunset. It comes back not as a circle, but as a heart.
Heart. Oh, I know.
And
I'm
that's why
obsessed.
SOS, that's why the O is a heart,
Heart.
because for me, SOS is the spirit of Scotty,
Yes,
because his spirit surrounds me. It's always around me. And
it is.
and it's so important that I know that, and I'm open to that because I feel him all the time. And I'll tell you another quick little story about
Yeah.
the signs he sends me. So our dog passed last year, and it was sudden, and I was by myself. The kids were in college, and my
Mm.
husband was traveling. And I was at the vet, and the vet's like, it's time, hon. We need to put him down. And so I made my calls to everybody and got the okay. And she had given him the little shot. And as I'm hugging him, there's a voice in my head, and it's not my voice, it's God's
Mm.
voice. And it says, I got doggo. And there's only one person that ever called our dog Buddy doggo because he hated the name Buddy. That was Scott. And I'm like, he's got doggo. And then it dawns on me that Buddy's crossed over and he's with Scott. And so I look over at the vet, and she puts on her stethoscope and she goes, oh, he's passed. And I didn't want to look like a lunatic and say, oh, I know, my dead son just told me. Oh my God. I'm like, okay. And then it just like it hit me. And of course, a whole new wave of tears
Right.
come because, it's like at least my
Right.
boy is with his dog now,
Dog.
and they
Yeah.
have each other. And
Yeah.
because the hardest thing is just you'll always think about, you're grateful for the time you've had with them,
Right.
but you always think about what could have been,
Right.
and all the stuff. Well, where would he be now? What would he be doing? And it's those things that bring on the fresh wave of tears because
Mhm.
it's just the loss of that.
I know. I
It's
know.
hard.
I
Mm.
love you, my
I love
friend.
you too. Oh my gosh. All right, let's move on to something lighter.
Okay. Well, my next topic really isn't exactly lighter, but we can segue into that. It's really like surviving, and I think
Mm,
you guys, um, because of the matriarch that you are for your children
mm,
and for Brad, but you have just it's not even just that one foot in front of the other, but like we are going to live.
oh yeah,
We're here.
yes,
We are going to live.
yes.
So, what actually helped you to keep
Mm.
going when things felt impossible?
That's easy. My friends, my community.
Mhm.
I am so blessed because I have friends like you
Mm.
and in our community, in our neighborhood, who when I couldn't stand up, you guys picked me up and carried. I remember when we were putting together picture collages and we'd sit there drinking so much wine, too much wine, and telling Scott stories and laughing. And then I remember when the 1 year anniversary came and I needed to do something. And so I invited all his friends over
Yeah.
and we got these rocks and we painted them. We spray painted them. And then we wrote little messages and markers on them so
Yeah.
we could decorate
Around his grave.
around his grave.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the messages were just so beautiful.
Yeah.
I remember just going and meditating and doing yoga and just people who I wasn't that close to, but they're like, I want to come too. I want
Yeah.
to join you. And we would go to the country club and there would be people there having parties and I played tennis
Mhm.
and it was just it was just some sense of normalcy a little bit.
Right.
But I will tell you, in the early days after Scott passed, when, all people wanted to do was talk about what happened,
Mm.
sometimes you need an escape.
Yeah.
And for Brad and I, before it happened, we had just enrolled in this pickleball class because we
Mm.
wanted to learn pickleball, the
Pickleball.
latest craze. And it was so amazing because we didn't know the instructor, and the
Mhm.
instructor didn't know us.
Mm.
And there was another couple doing it with us
Yeah.
who didn't know us,
Yeah.
and we didn't know them. So for an hour and a half, once a week, after this happened, we just played
You just
pickleball
play
like a couple,
pickleball.
learning how to play. You have
That's
kids, yeah, we have kids,
amazing.
we just talk
Yeah.
about things just in,
Mhm.
just on the,
What a
yeah, just on the
little
surface.
gift that God gave you guys
Oh my
because it was
God.
just a way to just be normal,
Be
quote
normal.
unquote.
We weren't the family that lost
Right.
a son to
Right.
suicide.
Yeah.
And I need to say too, my priest was so good. My son Jake would, turn to the church and
Mhm.
they supported him.
Mhm.
Lexi turned to her friends
Right.
and she went to some therapy classes or sessions to try and make an
Right.
understanding of it. um, but she realized that she preferred to just talk to her friends and to us and to do that. Brad buried himself in work,
Right.
and then of course when they see me I went on retreats,
Right.
on
Oh
grief
yeah.
retreats, and I went
I
to
was on one of those.
yes, you were. I think I made you go to the first one.
Yes.
I think you did.
Anna Raimondi.
Yes, you did. I was like,
um,
oh my
I
gosh.
do. It's so important before we move on to the next topic because for your birthday, which was in June, and I was like, I have to do something special. And I loved you. And I'm only bringing this up because people need to know, as hard as it is, you have to be there for your friends
Yeah.
and don't be scared.
No.
Don't be scared to be that friend to, I put together a succulent party for your
Yes,
birthday
you did. I remember
at
that.
your house. I was like, I met this friend. She did special, like these beautiful succulent, it's
And
kind of
just
like,
to add with Scott for his summer job, he worked at a garden center, and his favorite plant was succulents.
I didn't know that.
I just have to add that in there. So
So great.
there's double meanings in everything that goes on,
Yeah.
and it is true because you don't always know what to say or what to do, and you want to see your friend smile again,
Mhm.
but again, it's not like you're ever going to get over losing your child.
Never.
Never
No.
and even though you may see me laughing and you may see me smiling, it's because, as you say, I live amongst the living.
Right.
And even though my son has passed and a part of me has passed with
Mhm.
him,
Right.
I'm still here. And as long as I'm living and breathing, I am going to live my life to the fullest. I'm actually living fuller now than I ever have because I appreciate life
I know.
so much more
I know.
because I know how quick it
It
can
can
end.
go.
And yes, Scott died by suicide, but there are people that die by accidents, by
Mhm.
cancer, by drugs all the time. And these are children. These are our children.
Yeah.
And so you don't know what's going to happen, when it can happen.
Right.
So hug your family, hug them tight, hold them
Right.
close, and live your life.
And
And if
just that message to the friends
yeah,
who are, you don't know what to say or what to do. Just be there
yes,
and
just
don't
hold space.
just
Just hold
hold
space.
space.
You don't have
Yeah.
to say
That's
anything.
what I want you
Yeah,
like to say. I'm not
yeah,
the one, but
I know, but
I
just
know
hold
I
space.
just did what was
Right,
natural for me to
right.
do
Well,
for
that's
you.
it. And so you do. You hold space, and
Mhm.
you're just there because there is no
No.
right words to say. There
No.
are none. You
No.
can't unless you could say, "I can bring back your child." That's
Mhm.
the only thing that would make everything all better. But no,
I know.
there's nothing,
I know.
absolutely nothing. But to know that your friends are there and they care, and just for a little while, you could talk about other things, and you
Mhm.
can escape
Mhm. Yeah.
the hurt and the heartache that you're going through
Yeah.
by building terrariums with succulents.
That was that was really cool. Yeah. So I do want to move on just to turning your pain into a purpose.
Mm.
I'll never forget when you told me that, um, you had Scotty's book of poetry, but then you just started saying, "Oh, I'm going to write a book." I'm like, "That's
That's
amazing."
yeah. So that's a story. So you know, I went on a journey after Scott passed, and trying to really figure out my soul's purpose
Mhm.
because sure, I was a financial advisor, mom. My kids are now getting ready to go off to college. I was going to be an empty nester. I didn't want to wallow in self pity. I didn't want to be like a tennis pro or always
Yeah.
playing tennis and stuff like that. So I went on a lot of retreats and I did a lot of soul searching. And one of the things that I did, one of the retreats I went on was called narrative healing.
Hmm.
And what this was a way for you to get your trauma or your grief out, was to write. And whether it was just to, write a poem or to
Right.
write a letter to someone
Mm.
or to just write a story that had nothing to do with your trauma or your grief.
Yeah.
It was just a way to get from here to the paper, to let it flow. And there would be like exercises where you would stretch and you would lay down and you would have a hand on your chest and practice your breathing, and
Mm.
your legs would be in the air. And in
Cool.
one of those moments, it dawned on me, that I have all my son's poetry.
Hmm.
And so he used to write poems as a way for him to process all that he was going through,
Yeah.
and when he was in therapy, they had said, write.
He was like before the time.
Yes,
Like,
exactly. And so I realized that, and when I would do my writings would inevitably be letters to Scott,
yeah.
letting him know what was going on in our lives, or
Wow.
telling him how much I missed him,
Hmm.
or talking about, reliving one of his stories, and just, going through the things of his childhood, and just things I would normally, just talk to him about.
Right.
And so as I started writing those letters and writing and having his poems, we would have open mics in this group and you
Hmm.
could share what you were writing. And so the woman who ran it, Lisa Weiner, said, you know, talk about, give it some context. Where is this all coming from?
Hmm.
And so I started to talk about, the story of Scott and
Right.
and what had transpired in our lives, and intertwine that with my letters and intertwine that with his poems. And I realized that I have the makings of a book here
You do.
that I can
Yeah.
share with people.
So, my next question is, it's really twofold, because writing a book is one thing and telling your story. But really, like, how did you know that you wanted to share your story publicly? And then to that end, how did Stories of Survivors, SOS, how did that begin?
Wow, that's crazy. So I was doing this writing workshop and my book was just evolving and it was it was special,
Yeah.
because it wasn't just me talking another mom who's lost,
Mhm.
somebody or another book about grief. This was a book about Scott, but it also had his voice
Right.
and his side of it because it comes through in his poems.
Ooh, I have goosebumps.
So
Mm.
it's like he's coming back from the other side and he's telling his story. And so, with that said, a friend of mine from years ago that I used to do kung fu classes and
Mm.
kickboxing called me up and said, I'm on a show called SOS Radio.Live, and it would be great if you came on and talked a little bit about what you're doing. And so I did. And so the producer behind it, the woman
Did
who
he know?
created
I'm
this,
sorry. Did he know the book was SOS?
so he did eventually. Yeah. So that was what was really crazy because I SOS stands for Spirit of Scotty for
Right.
me. And the radio show was SOS Radio Live. And so he says, this is just too crazy.
Yeah.
So he's like, you have to come on and tell your story. And my friend and the producer and the owner of the radio show is going to be blown away by this. And Marlene Cruz,
Mm.
who runs SOS Radio.Live
Yeah.
and SOS Media Group, um, she was like, this is not a coincidence. She says, you
Right.
need to be a host on my show. And she
Ooh.
says, you need to have your own show. And so she said, you call it. And we stuck with the SOS because it's so important. And I
Mhm.
didn't want it to be just about grief. So we called it Stories of Survivors
Mhm.
because I wanted it to be about resilience
Yeah.
and about how you put yourself back together after you've been torn apart and why some people can do it
Mm.
while others struggle a
Right.
lot.
Right.
And what's the secret sauce? And maybe if we
Can we bottle it?
and
Please.
can we share it? And so from that meeting, SOS Stories of Survivors was born, and it's a platform. It's a
Yeah.
platform for anyone who's ever gone through anything to share. And it's been so, oh my
So
gosh,
here.
yes.
Um,
Sorry.
thank you. Um, I just wanted to ask a quick question to that end. What has it meant to you? Um, the feedback from
Oh,
the listeners.
it's been mind blowing. It's been actually a really an education for me because learning. I've learned so much about people, and I've learned how people are just magical and they're special. And
Mm-hmm.
when they have drive and they have hope, nothing can
Right.
stop them. And a lot of people rely on their faith.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful to see that they don't turn away from God, but God supports them. And that whatever their religion is, it
Right.
doesn't matter if it's Allah, if it's God, or you call the universe, whether you're spiritual, it doesn't matter. But what matters is that you're there and um, you believe in that there is hope,
Right.
and that hope, it shines such a light. And from this, I've been able to grab our group of friends and talk about our self love group and our self love
Right.
club.
Yeah.
And I really want to expand that to include men and have a
Men.
men's group. That's coming next.
That is
We're gonna
so.
do that.
Woo,
It's
that
coming.
would
It's
be
coming.
fire.
And because I don't know if you know this, but every 10 minutes someone dies by suicide.
Ugh,
But more than that, every few minutes, it's a man dying by suicide. And
that's terrible.
it's got to stop because these
It
men
has to.
carry so much. they carry a lot, and they don't talk like we do. They don't share. They
Right.
don't cry and let their
No.
emotions out like you and I
No.
can have just a cry fest here.
Right.
They don't, and it's so important. So
Yeah.
stay tuned for that. That's coming next on my
Yeah.
show.
I do want to point out something that just because you mentioned hope,
Yeah,
I think it's ironic that you lived on hope.
you
They
know,
lived on hope.
I did live on Hope
Yes,
Drive.
that was
It's true.
just,
I did.
there is the thread,
I
like
know.
we talked about. There's this thread. So,
Yeah.
that brings me to something very exciting.
Whoa.
I can't wait. Let's tell us about your book,
My book, yes.
SOS.
Okay, so SOS, I wrote for Scotty. Scotty, of course, as you know, is my son who's written poetry, and it's become a labor of love. And it's SOS. It's a lesson on love, loss, and survival. I am in the final stages of the editing, and I'm just gonna give you a quick little. This is
Sneak
what
peek.
the sneak peek. This is the we're in the final stages. I'm hoping to have it come out next month in September for suicide prevention. And
Tell us what's inside and
inside,
about the artwork.
oh my gosh! So the artwork was a collaboration between my publisher, me, and Scott. And it represents, the hearts that he always sends me, and my angel boy, just lassoing the energy and sending it out to us. And the book talks about my journey. It goes into my childhood, my story, but it also talks about Scott's story and our family and how we got through this. And inside of here are my letters to him and every poem he wrote. So it's definitely one that you're going to want to grab. And it'll be on my website on serinadansker.com. And
Yes.
there'll be lots of opportunities for me to share it with you and share the poems that are in there.
I just want to say pre-orders are open now. If you've been moved by Serena's work or have been touched by loss, this book is for you.
Hmm.
Um, Lessons, and I just want to talk a little bit because I would be remiss to end this without talking about some. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned about grief, and maybe some lessons on suicide
Mm.
prevention and
So the one of the biggest things I've taken away is kindness. Kindness matters.
Mhm.
Kindness is so important in every day. Um, when you walk down the street and you see someone and you like their outfit, sometimes you don't say anything. But what if you just said, "I love your outfit,"
Yeah,
and you just make them smile, or "You look great," or "I love your shoes." You don't know what other people are going through, and that can just make their day so much
yeah,
brighter. And just to, it doesn't cost anything.
right.
Just a little bit of just kindness goes so far. Check in on that neighbor, that elderly neighbor. Just say, "Hey, how are you today?" Spend a few moments talking to someone instead of rushing off to the next meeting or appointment that you have.
Right. That's it's ironic that you say this because I read a daily devotional every morning from Be Still, and the devotional today was about how we self-criticize and we get into the states of unworthiness
Yes.
and like in these hard places. But one of the like questions was, or the sort of instruction was to write a letter to your friend who's feeling the way you're feeling
Mhm.
and then read it to yourself. And then it said, but take it a step further and go out and maybe write a letter to a friend or to strangers.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see a mom with her children, you can
Right.
just say, I love the way you smile at your children.
Exactly.
Or you could say, like, it's so ironic that that was the reading for today.
Of course it
Woo!
was.
I have goosebumps.
Exactly.
I
That's
love
because
it.
it's the thread.
It's
It's
the
We are
thread.
all connected, and that's
Yes.
the other thing that I've learned. It's like whether you believe what I believe or not, that's fine.
Yeah.
I believe we are all energy, and
Yeah.
that we envelop these bodies for if we're lucky, 100 years, right?
Right.
Not everybody's meant to live 100 years. We're all on our own journeys. But once our bodies die, our energy, our souls are free, and we are all connected.
Yeah.
We are all love and light.
Right.
And my mission and my goal is to shine my light on as many people as I possibly can. And this is what my soul's purpose is. And this is what I've come to realize. And this is what I've come to realize, that we need to just spread kindness and spread love and light.
I love that. What do you want people to know about suicide prevention, especially this month?
Mm.
And I know we've touched on it, but is there anything else that you want to add?
Well, I want, I really, what I want to say to people for suicide is that you are not alone. No matter what you're going through, whatever your mental state is, there's help out there. There's people that are going through or have gone through exactly what you're going through, that want to help you, that care about you, and just reach out and ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness by any means. It's actually a sign of strength.
Right.
And there are people that would love to support you and help you. And you matter. You matter more than you think, even if you don't think you do. You do. This world is a better place because you're in it. And never forget that.
Um, before we close, I know this hour like flew by. Um, and I do want to thank you so much for your vulnerability,
No.
for your love, for your kindness and compassion that you share out to the world, to your friends.
Mm.
Um, you know, regardless of what you've gone through, you're a little light, and
Oh, I love you.
we all appreciate you. Um, I want to remind listeners that there are different ways that you can connect. Before I do that, I want to read a poem. We always end with one of Scotty's poems.
Yeah.
So I want to read that and then we will close.
And you know, it carries to the next page.
Thank you. In Scott's words, I don't know if I'm supposed to read all this, but this poem's called Mom. Most people, if not all, love their mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers. But a mother is the one who holds everything so tight, stops all the fights, and cooks dinner every night. Now, look, nobody is perfect, and everybody deserves love and appreciation. No abbreviations. Love is something not every not everyone possesses. Most people repress it. Some can't even express it. But I can say for sure, my mom gives more love than anyone perceives. She does so much for everyone you wouldn't even believe. People mostly look past her, but even the dog knows she's the master. Mom, I want you to know I will always turn your seat heater on because I am that much of a bastard.
Because he made me think I was having hot flashes, and that bum
Oh, Scotty.
would he would get this look on his face when I'd be like roasting, and then all of a sudden he would get this look, and he couldn't stop the laughter. And I would look at him and be like, "You put this in here," and he would break out in this joyful laugh.
Oh,
Oh my
oh,
god!
that laugh. Oh, oh.
Oh,
Um, just a few reminders for listeners. You can connect via SOS website and socials. Pre-order the book. Share the episode to help spread hope. And I just want to say that your story matters. As Serina's journey has shown, even in the deepest grief, there is still room for love, healing, and purpose.
oh, I
Thank
love you.
you.
Thank you for doing this. Oh,
And
you are the best.
thank you for having me. And thank you all
Thank you
for
to my
being here.
listeners and for listening to us cry and tell my story. But it needs to be said. And we're here. And if you have a story that you want to share, DM me, reach out on social media. I'm here for you.
Bye.